When the courtroom doors opened that morning, no one paid much attention to the man who walked in. He wasn't wearing an expensive suit or carrying a briefcase that screamed power. His shoes were scuffed, his tie slightly faded, and his face carried the calm of someone who'd seen too much to be shaken by stares. His name was Malcolm Rivers, and everyone in that courtroom was about to learn it the hard way. Judge Robert Holbrook leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen against the bench. He was known for his sharp tongue and his love of putting defendants in their place, especially the ones who looked like they didn't belong there. Well, he said with a smirk. Looks like our next case is a solo performance. No attorney? Representing yourself, are we? The courtroom chuckled. Malcolm stood straight, hands clasped. Yes, Your Honor, he said quietly. I'll be representing myself. The judge's smirk widened. Good. Saves us all the time and embarrassment of watching another public defender fumble through this circus. A few people laughed under their breath. The bailiff looked away, hiding a grin. Malcolm didn't react. He simply looked up, meeting the judge's eyes for the first time, his voice steady. There won't be a circus, sir. Just the truth. The room quieted, if only for a moment. The prosecutor, Janet Ruiz, rose from her chair with the kind of confidence only years of easy wins could bring. Your Honor, she said smoothly, the state will prove that the defendant, Mr. Rivers, trespassed on federal property, specifically the Department of Justice building, after hours, and refused to comply when ordered to leave. She glanced at Malcolm. Care to explain why you were there? Malcolm's tone was calm. I was there to review internal conduct reports. Janet frowned. Internal reports? You don't work there. Not yet, Malcolm replied. A few laughs rippled through the courtroom. The judge chuckled. Mr. Rivers, this is a courtroom, not a comedy club. But the laughter stopped when Malcolm said quietly, You'll see, Your Honor, I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to remind you what justice looks like. The judge leaned forward. Remind me? Son, I've been sitting on this bench for 20 years. I don't need reminders from someone who can't even afford counsel. The insult hung in the air like smoke. But Malcolm didn't flinch. Then maybe that's the problem, he said softly. Judge Holbrook slammed his gavel. You're skating on thin ice, Mr. Rivers. I've walked on worse, Malcolm replied. The prosecutor pressed on. Your Honor, this man was caught in a secure government building at midnight. He claims he was reviewing files. The state calls that trespassing. Malcolm smiled faintly. And I call it oversight. Oversight, Janet repeated, irritated. You think you oversee the Department of Justice? Not yet, he said again. This time, the judge's patience snapped. Mr. Rivers, I've had enough of your riddles. You stand accused of trespassing on government property. Do you have anything to say before I pass judgment? Malcolm took a slow breath. His voice dropped lower, calmer. Just one thing. He reached into his worn briefcase and pulled out a single envelope, sealed and stamped with the gold crest of the United States. The bailiff carried it to the bench. The judge tore it open impatiently. His eyes flicked across the page, then froze. The courtroom fell into silence. The letter bore the signature of the President of the United States, under the title, Appointment Order Malcolm E. Rivers, Acting Attorney General of the United States. The color drained from the judge's face. The prosecutor's mouth fell open. The bailiff stood frozen mid-step. Malcolm spoke, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. You asked why I was in that building, Your Honor. The answer is simple. I was preparing for work. The judge's lips trembled. You're the new Attorney General? Yes, Malcolm said softly. And I delayed my public announcement because I wanted to see this system for myself. To see how justice treats people who don't look the part. The courtroom went still. No laughter now. Just shame and realization hanging heavy in the air. You see, Malcolm continued, when I walked into this room, no one saw a man. You saw a stereotype. You saw poverty, not purpose. You saw skin before truth. And yet, I stood here quietly, because respect isn't demanded, it's revealed. The judge swallowed hard, his voice unsteady. "Mr. Rivers, I had no idea." Malcolm cut him off. "That's exactly the point. You shouldn't need to know who I am to treat me with dignity. Justice isn't about titles or robes, Your Honor. It's about fairness." He turned to the gallery. "Every person who stands in this courtroom deserves to be seen, not for what they wear or what they own, but for the truth they carry." The judge couldn't speak. His gavel rested motionless in his hand. Malcolm gathered his papers, tucking them neatly back into his briefcase. Then, looking up one last time, he said, "The case against me is dismissed, effective immediately, but the case against this system," he paused, "that one's just getting started." He turned and walked out. No victory speech, no anger, just quiet authority. And in that silence, everyone in that courtroom felt something they hadn't felt in years: respect. Outside, the sky had opened into rain. Malcolm walked down the courthouse steps slowly, every drop washing away the echoes of laughter from inside. A young reporter rushed toward him, microphone shaking. "Mr. Rivers, sir, what are you going to do now?" Malcolm stopped, looking at the courthouse behind him. "Clean house," he said simply. "One courtroom at a time." He stepped into the street, rain pooling at his feet, when a black SUV pulled up beside him. The windows rolled down, and two men in dark suits stepped out. "Mr. Rivers," one said, his voice low, "we need you to come with us." Malcolm's jaw tightened. "And who might you be?" The man flashed a badge. Unmarked, no agency logo, just silver and black. "Let's just say," he replied, "not everyone's happy about your appointment." Malcolm's eyes narrowed. "You tell whoever sent you, they'll have to do more than scare me." The man leaned closer. "This isn't a threat, sir. It's a warning." The rain pounded harder. Thunder cracked above. Malcolm looked at them both, calm as ever. "Then tell them," he said. "The real storm's already here." He stepped into his car, the door closing with a heavy thud. The SUV followed close behind as both vehicles disappeared into the gray blur of rain. And back inside the courthouse, Judge Holbrook sat frozen in his chair, staring at the letter on his desk, the seal of the United States staring back at him like a mirror. Because in one morning, the man he mocked as a joke had just become the man who would decide his fate. The moral is simple: never underestimate the quiet ones. You may not hear their power when they walk in, but you'll feel it when they walk out. And as for Malcolm Rivers, his fight for real justice has only just begun. To be continued in Part 2, The Attorney General's Secret Enemies. Would you like me to continue this into Part 2, where the men who took Malcolm reveal a hidden political conspiracy, written in the same voiceover style, full of tension and cinematic buildup?